Good afternoon, everybody, and you're really welcome to our next session from the Built Environment Virtual Career Series. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined again by alucraft, who were participants at our engineering event and have come back for more to our built environment event. We're delighted to welcome again Rachel Bradford, who's HR manager, Jessica McGovern, who's HR and payroll administrator, Brendan McDermott is design office manager, and Luke O'Connor, who is a facade designer and has recently completed the graduate program at alucraft. So we'll have plenty of insights that should be really interesting for students. Rachel, we'll hand over to you, and if you want to take it away. And as I said, really appreciate your participation again at today's event.
Hi guys, like Anthony said, I'm Rachel from alucraft, and we're here today to talk to you about the opportunities on our graduate programme and our internship programme. Some of you might have already met us on Friday, and if not, it's good to get to speak to you again today. So I'm going to hand over to Jessica now, and she's going to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do.
Hi everybody, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our company. So alucraft was founded in 1975. We are the leading pioneer in design, engineering, manufacturing, installation and maintenance of architectural glazing systems. We are incredibly proud to offer our clients a full design, fabrication and installation service for large-scale, high-value projects. Some of our systems include utilised and stick curtain walling, roof glazing, point fix and structural glazing, cladding solutions, and some of the disciplines to go along with that would be facade design, structural engineering, site management, and quantity surveying. alucraft is actually part of the Clarison Group. So along with alucraft Ireland, we have alucraft UK, EAG, and William Cox. And then some locations other than Ireland and the UK, we actually have some design offices in Poland, the Philippines, and in Madrid in Spain. I'm just going to hand you over to Brendan, who's going to just go through some current projects.
Hi everyone, my name is Brendan McDermott again. I'm the design office manager here at alucraft in their Dublin office. I oversee the different design teams that we have in-house. There's a few different departments: design for architecture, design for production, and design for production presence, as well as engineering. What we currently have on the screen, we just want to go through some current projects so you get an idea of the projects that alucraft Dublin here work on. These are all within the Dublin area or Dublin market. For this one, for example, Spencer Place, just to get an idea of the number of stories we're looking at, the full enclosing the full facade here through different glazing systems, stick or unitized systems as well, and then a combination of metal panels. That's the next slide. Fibonacci square, more of the same, just to give you again an overall concept of the different facade systems. All of this is designed, engineered in-house, and most of the production is also done in-house, as well as some outsourcing throughout the different alucraft companies. Tropical fruit, again, another project in-house. Each of these projects have their own challenges, as you can see, with surrounding buildings or existing construction and new construction. For Park Place, this one has a particular unique fin system on the exterior, so you can see not a lot of this is standard. It's very customized, hence the design that we have to do in the engineering. And 19 to 22 Kildare Street, again, you see more examples of the metal cladding and different glazing systems. Same as Grand Parade here, all based in the Dublin area. Very exciting projects with some really great clients. Heinz is a multinational client and a big presence here in the Dublin market as well. To South County, we're actually wrapping this up in construction, but again, you can kind of see the different glazing and metal panel systems on here. So what does an alucraft designer do? Luke can certainly touch on this later on in the graduate program, but basically we're taking the design intent from the architect, from the design team, and these next few slides will show you what we receive and then what happens, what we work on here within alucraft. For example, here you can see for this particular project, 5 Harcourt Road, on the left you have the typical detail from the architect, the design intent, and on the right is our finished detail after it goes through the various different stages of construction, status C, B, A. This is goes through our design office, through our production office, the engineering, and this is the final result. You can see there's a very big difference in the technical drawing from the left, from the architect's detail, to the alucraft specialty subcontractor detail on the right. This, as I said before, goes through various different status reviews with the entire design team before being approved by the architect and design team prior to starting construction. Some other examples: the typical floor slab detail, and then the final engineered detail, taking into account the engineering, the thermal calculations, U value, movement, everything else that's involved. The engineering, critical part of like this. A lot of information you don't see that goes into this detail. Analysis and reports as well, which we'll talk about in the actual graduate program. You would get an opportunity to work on all aspects of production as it goes through. Here you can see typical elevation, again the design intent, which is basically telling us the overall size of the glazing, floor to floor heights and everything else. From there, again we produce our detailed elevation with the different glass types and details and movement and everything else. So you kind of see an example just of what the drawings we receive from the tender stage, and developing our technical drawings, which are used for ordering and for construction. I mentioned before within alucraft, and as a part of the engineering program or the graduate program, you'll see there's different roles and responsibilities within the design office. Design for architecture, working with architect's drawings. Once we develop the status C, B, A drawings, it moves into production, and you start to see some of the production drawings here. We're actually getting into the every single tab, every single screw, nut, bolt, insulation is all labeled and detailed and drawn here. Just another example of some of the engineering for this stair tower. You can see the actual structural cladding that we have to put in place to support our metal panel systems, whether it's glass or metal panels or a combination of both. But we would work on all aspects of that. Something that we would work with the design team and their structural engineer, but it's usually done in-house and sent over to them for approval and for review too. So it is quite interesting and presents its challenges. This is not your standard like window glazing systems, metal panels. It has a lot of different bits and pieces to it, so it is challenging at times. Just another example of getting into our actual production details, where some of these parts have to be specially engineered or custom made. They're not just standard off the shelf manufacturer's details, depending upon the design by the architect. Again, all the engineering, 3D model and everything is done in-house, as well as our production for what we can manage at any given time here in our Dublin factory. So just an outline of some of the technical drawings used for design development: structural calculation, CFD analysis, TSA, thermal stress analysis, acoustical reports, horizontal and vertical flanking, blind control strategies, and free airflow or automatic vents. Again, all of this is reviewed in-house. It all goes into like producing those final details and drawings and everything else. So it's really amazing, like the amount of information that has to be done to produce that glazing system that goes out on site to be installed. From here, I can turn it over to Rachel and Luke for the graduate program, and they will run through the different modules and elements that Luke himself has gone through in the past. So over to you guys.
Great, thanks. So that hopefully that's kind of given you a bit of a flavour of what a designer in alucraft does. And we have developed a graduate program that's been specifically designed to make sure that you pick up all the skills needed to be able to succeed as a designer in the company. So our graduate program runs over a 2-year period, and it is broken down, broadly speaking, into different modules just to make sure that you cover off everything that you need. So you can see there we have like a general overview of the main modules. So you'd cover things like health and safety, workplace skills, but then you'd also kind of get into the more technical detail around design processes, procedures, product knowledge, and so on. First glance, looking at the module layout of the graduate program can sometimes make you think, oh, this is a bit academic, but that actually couldn't be further from the truth. So we really do believe that hands-on experience is best. So after 2 to 3 weeks of settling in, you will be working on live projects pretty much straight away. Obviously, you'll get support where it's needed, but we do believe like you learn best when you're actually doing it yourself. And the way we look at it is you've done your college course for however many years, and now it's time for you to be able to put that into practice and actually apply it. As well as covering each of the different modules over the 2-year period, you'll also have the opportunity to rotate to different departments within the business, just so that you get a wider understanding of how the company operates and to allow you to develop relationships with colleagues who might work in different parts of the business. You'll also get to go out to site for site visits, and then our production facility is located here where the office is based as well. So you'll have an opportunity to spend time out there and just kind of follow the journey of the product from design to manufacture until you get to installation. So, like I said, we do provide you with 100% real-world experience. It's something that we feel very strongly about. So I'm going to hand over to Luke now, who recently completed our graduate program, and he'll be able to give you a bit more insight as to how the program actually is.
So how's it going? I'm Luke. As Rachel was saying, I was taken on as one of the first graduates to be brought into alucraft. Myself and my colleague Joel were brought in 2 years ago, and the main things that I really loved about the program was that the diversity of it. Like Rachel was saying there, not only is it just learn to be a designer, but we also got the experience of being able to work in the factory, which is on site in Culver Hill, and also got experience to go onto site and gain knowledge there, and gain also empathy from to learn the information that they require on site and in the factory, which then we could relate back to our drawings, and that really benefited to be able to keep the communication good between the factory and the office. So the beginning of the program, which Rachel mentioned, there is a few weeks of theory-based learning to get the physics and the principles of facades under our belt, but then with the high level of work that is in the design office, we were more or less within a month or two, we've been doing live work, creating fabrication packages in SolidWorks, which we were then issuing to the factory. Obviously, being new in the company, it wasn't the close eye of the production team, but still, again, what Rachel said is like this is where the main amount of learning came from, doing real work. And then within a few weeks, it was a great feeling knowing that parts were being made, that I'm being hung on buildings across the city that myself and Joe had worked on after only being in the door in the company, which was great, to be honest. And then obviously by the time we got a chance to go to the sites and see these parts that we had worked on, that was a huge win for us. But once the theory then was finished, we were, instead of juggling between theory and SolidWorks packages, we began learning AutoCAD, like the drawings that Brendan was showing there, learning how to detail, going from the architectural drawings, the architectural design intent drawings, into the more intricate alucraft details. So originally working on non-live screens, but then again we got a chance to start revising drawings to be able to bring the status of the drawing up, which then is to the point where I am now, just about to start working on original drawings from scratch, were based off the architect's drawings. So all the different disciplines in the office is really the main thing that I found the great, because you be able to, the ability to be able to move within the office is huge. Like, I still don't know potentially where I could finish, be it in production or continue to be a facade designer on the architectural side of things. That's really, for me anyway, is the main draw that I saw with alucraft, was the scope within the office to potentially be able to keep moving up the ladder. And yeah, and then again, what I could say there is that, to be honest, I'd say within the last 2 years, I've been learning every single day underneath the hugely experienced designers that were in our office. And then again, looking at every so often we get meetings to see the amount of work coming through the pipeline, and to see the amount of the body of work that still alucraft has on its plate. And I'm kind of excited to see what the future holds. So I'm gonna then I'll pass you back over to Jessica or Rachel now, that they'll be able to talk to you about the actual application and process of applying.
Great, thanks, Luke. So if you think that the graduate program sounds interesting to you and you think that you'd be a good fit for the program, there are 2 ways for you to apply. So you can either go online to our website, alucraftgroup.com, and we have a dedicated graduate careers page, and you'll see an application form there that you can fill in. Or you can email gradcareers@alucraft.ie with your CV and a brief cover letter. And that mailbox is monitored by myself and Jessica, so you'll get through to a real person, it's not a robot. And we will screen your application, and if it's appropriate, shortlist it. So we have 3 stages to our recruitment process. So if your CV is successfully screened, you'll be invited to a first round interview. And this is most likely to be via video call, which is something we've all had to get used to over the last year or so. And then if you successfully pass the first round interview, which is very much focused on just seeing, if you're a good fit on a personal level, and kind of whether we feel you'd fit into our culture, you'll be asked to sit a skills assessment. And if you pass the skills assessment, you'll then be invited to a second round interview, which will be made up of a panel of the design management team. Just to note as well that we also, as well as running a graduate program, we also offer internship opportunities. So we typically run a 10-week summer internship program, usually sometime between June and August. And I'd say the real benefit of completing an internship program with us is that if you successfully complete the program, you will get fast-tracked to the final round of interviews for our graduate program. And you don't necessarily have to be applying for the graduate program the year that you do the internship with us. So, for example, we've had someone in the past who did an internship with us in 2019, and then earlier this year in 2021 applied for a graduate position with us, and he got fast-tracked to interview. So definitely, if you're in a point in your education where it makes sense for you to do an internship, I would highly recommend that you do that if you would be interested in pursuing a full-time career with us once you graduate. So I'm just going to play you a short video that just kind of sums up what the graduate program is all about, and then we'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.
My name is Jack McHugh and I am the Chief Executive of the alucraft Group. I have worked in alucraft and William Cox since 1991, and together with my colleagues I have managed a team of very successful people to make the alucraft Group the leading group in Ireland and the UK in the business of facade provision.
We are specialised in curtain walling, windows, sliding doors, all for the commercial industry, mainly offices and retail. Graduates fit into the company in many different ways. We have many different departments under design. We've got the DFA, Design for Architecture, which would suit a lot of architectural students. We've got Design for Production, DFP, which would suit a lot of industrial design people who use a lot of SolidWorks and who are working on engines and parts going together. We've also got DFPP, which is a department that designs all our pressed metal.
Never really realised that there was such a large area for specialists like facade design until I came here and realised, there's about almost 100 people working here and everyone has their own job and their own bit and it all ties into one another and they all work so well together.
The hardest part, I would say, is initially starting and just not understanding fully what's going on, but over time you start to learn about the company a bit more, what specifically they do and how you can actually contribute.
Many people entering the facade industry did not come from an educated background. We believe that the industry has become much more technical and more scientific, and as a result of that we need bright, young, well-educated people to come into the industry.
The staff here are very friendly and you will learn a lot, even more than you would have learned in college. In a certain amount of time you learn so much in a short period of time working with experts who have been using these programs and have so much deep understanding of the construction market.
You design something on AutoCAD or Revit or SolidWorks or whatever, and then it's actually made in the factory a few weeks later or a few days later or even straight away. You can go from seeing it like 2D to 3D to actually physically and hold it and say, I drew this up on a computer a few days ago. It's amazing that it's already out now and it's ready to go to site.
Great, Rachel, Jessica, Luke, and Brendan, thanks so much again for a really, really impressive presentation. I'm sure the students would have got a huge amount out of that. A couple of questions coming in here. You've sort of covered one of them, which is around summer internships, and obviously we'd encourage students to go down that route. We think that's an obvious one after second, third year, just to dip the toe into the industry and see what it's like. And as you said, the conversion rate from internship or placement students to being offered a place in your graduate program is very, very high, and that probably speaks volumes about the experience that they have. A question in here for you, Luke. Don't panic. It's not a tricky one.
Yeah.
If you were to have one thing that that you wish you knew when you were in your final year that you know now in relation to transition from education into the world of work, what will it be?
Well, I came from a product design background, so when I was in college, I was learning to create products mainly using plastic. And then my father was actually an architect, so I was aware of the facade industry and stuff like that. And then when I came to the round of interviews with alucraft, I had a little bit of a fear of entering the construction industry. But now, to be honest, it's exactly what I was meant to do. So all I'd say is that don't be afraid of taking a step outside of the original plan, because initially I'd always seen myself going down a product design route rather than a construction industry sort of designer.
Okay.
But as I said, there would have been no way of me knowing that now, but the experience, like in hindsight, is a great thing, I could say. But yeah, I would have had that initial fear of changing industry slightly, but no, I would always just keep every door open.
Brilliant. Brendan, I'm going to hear for you. What, in relation to the graduates who I'm sure you have a hand in mentoring, what do you think makes an exceptional graduate stand out? So what skill set do they bring, or what personality traits do you think are valuable in your industry?
For me, I would say listen pay attention, never be afraid to ask questions. There's no silly or dumb questions. I mean, the only way to learn is to ask questions, and quite often by asking those questions, you're obviously challenging the person to think about it, and sometimes they learn a thing or two. Why do we do it this way? Actually, maybe there is a better way of doing this. So, I mean, just you come into a position like that as a graduate. Everybody you're talking to has years of experience, and they're professionals in their own field. Listen, learn, watch, and ask questions. Like I have all the time in the world for anybody who wants to ask questions, because it's a way of sharing our knowledge as well, and helping them take the steps to grow into a position within the company and be successful.
Brilliant. If there's a student, maybe Jess or Rachel, this is for you, and maybe Jessica will finish this final question with you. But if there's a student who's maybe, as Luke said, aligning themselves to a traditional sort of route, and we know alucraft sort of isn't, even though traditional design skills, it's all incorporated within what we're going to be doing. Is there advice that you would give somebody who's maybe is unsure if that sort of traditional route is for them, in relation to what Luke has just said, which is maybe look outside that sort of narrow line and see what other sectors or disciplines you can apply your skill set in? So if you're a student in your final year and you really are unsure, what would your advice be to them?
I would say, just like Luke said, keep an open mind. And if there is a different industry that seems a bit outside the box that you're considering, like, try to make contact with someone in that industry who has experience. LinkedIn can be great for that. You can search people by job title, by industry, by company. And I guess it's just about, being polite, making contact, and 9 times out of 10, most people are happy to help and to share their experience about how they got to where they've ended up. So that's definitely
we're constantly saying that to students, but very few of them actually go down that route. I always use the example: what happened the last time you asked somebody for directions? They probably gave you directions, so you're not asking for anything, you're not asking for a job. I think they call it informational interviewing. But use LinkedIn. I'm sure any of you guys will be open to contact from somebody on LinkedIn. I'm just conscious of people who are watching on demand. Rachel, you provided your email address in one of the slides. It's a generic one. I think yourself and Jessica probably manned that. So so there's no problem in relation to just for students who are watching on demand, just to watch back and flick back through the presentation. The final question then, I think it came up the last time as well, Rachel or Jessica, is around the technical assessment. What is contained within that?
So it's really just an assessment of your technical skills. So, we'd be seeing, do you have the capabilities to use all the different programs and software that we use internally? But having said that, we do acknowledge that some of what we use hasn't necessarily been covered in a lot of college courses. So it's really just kind of seeing, like, do you have the potential? Like, you don't have to be coming in 100% perfection. It's whether we can see something in you that we can develop.
Perfect. And I'm going to go back to Luke and ask him about his experience of the technical assessment, because I think that's something that students sometimes are a bit wary of. Did you approach it? Any tips and tricks?
Yeah, like as Rachel was saying there, it's not like alucraft, kind of the program is developed that no matter how much skill I had, say, in SolidWorks, and I actually had very little knowledge of AutoCAD when I came in, the program is still designed that you'll be taught the alucraft way of doing things either way. So no matter what level you're at, the technical assessment's more just, as Rachel said, to make sure that you kind of have the want to be able to learn that in that industry, and not just in that sort of area. But like, say for me, mainly the lads would have just checked out my final year project, stuff like that, some drawings and stuff. But again, that was not to the level of what I have now. So within a couple of months, I'd already shot up into sort of the alucraft level of technical.
Brilliant. But really good tips there in relation to final year project that will be a requirement. Employers tend to like and look for that sort of content. So thanks for that, Luke. Okay, we're literally just a minute over one. Guys, thank you so much again for a brilliant presentation. Really good to have a recent graduate voice on it as well. And Brendan, thanks so much for your obviously lending your voice to from an experience perspective. And Jessica and Rachel, thanks so much for sticking with us throughout this virtual career series. I know that you guys are doing lots and lots of careers events, so really do appreciate you coming back to Dundalk for a second time, and hopefully the students have got a lot out of it. I know I have, and we would encourage you to click onto the links and start applying for what in my eyes is an excellent graduate program. So thanks so much again, guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.